It's a little tough to talk about scientific notation and calculators without actually being right there to talk to you in lecture. I'm going to do my darndest though. I think probably the best thing is to just kind of show a couple of different types of calculators, and then I will show you kind of like a good resource for an online calculator. So the first thing to recognize is that anywhere you see an EE on a calculator, that is equivalent to times 10 to the like what we need in scientific notation. And this will kind of vary among calculators. Some of them, like this one, use what's called the exponent button. That actually means times 10 to whatever number you enter in. There are other calculators that kind of list it off as kind of like a times 10 to the y or something like that. And actually, a pretty good online calculator for those of you that really don't want to use like the cell phone calculators. I've always found the cell phone calculators to be really cumbersome, even the scientific calculator functions on those. So let's go to this site. This is just one of many kind of simulated calculators on the internet. The advantage of this is, of course, it's free, so you don't have to pay for one. It may be an advantage to just kind of like have your own little calculator. Whatever calculator you use, make sure first of all that it's scientific and capable of scientific notation, which this is, perfectly capable of, and I'll show you how to use it in just a second. Probably better to have your own. The important thing is to just like go through a couple of slides, a couple of the answers that I've worked out, and make sure you know how to use it. If you need help using it, please use one of the office hours, and that way I can kind of help you troubleshoot it. There are a lot of different calculators out there. I know this isn't a very exciting topic to be talking about how to use a calculator, but it really is vitally important. I think probably the most helpful way to show how to enter scientific notation in your calculator is to kind of have a couple of examples so you know what you should be getting to make sure that you're using yours correctly. And I'll kind of simultaneously enter these operations into the calculator over here. So if this is the calculator that you're going to use, then you can kind of see how you enter it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these two numbers, and I'm going to enter those into the calculator. So I've got 8.13. I'm going to leave the 0 off because that's not important. I'm going to click the times 10 to the blah, blah, blah button here. And this is kind of that EXP button on some calculators, an EE button. Sometimes you have to press 2 buttons to access it, but this one's actually not too bad. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter the -10 here. I should mention that on a lot of the TI calculators, you're not allowed to enter a minus sign. You actually have another button on there somewhere that's usually in this area that has kind of like a toggle that goes between plus and minus. This particular one, though, allows you to use a minus sign. Wow, this is a really exciting presentation. So the kind of weird thing about this, if I were to just enter the division symbol, it turns out it would actually make my exponent right here be divided, and I really don't want that. So the way I get around that is I click the execute function, and the kind of helpful thing is this particular calculator is its functionality and programming is such that it shows me what that number is in kind of normal form. Not every calculator does that. A lot of them you can program to do that, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. So let's just take it as a given here. So those two things look pretty good. We're going to take this number, and then we're going to make sure what pops out looks something like this. While I'm entering this in, if you got anything to talk about, any good stories, that would be a great time. Okay, so let's press the execute button. And what you'll see is we've got a 1.197 times 10 to the -7th. And if we take a look at this thing, it turns out this is actually going to be the same number, right? And so one thing that is sometimes possible, I'll have to check real quick to see if it is on this one. Sometimes there's just a single button that can actually convert your answer into scientific notation. So let me take a second and see if that's possible. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any like instant converter between scientific notation and otherwise. So we'll just kind of keep on trucking here and I'll show you how to do the next couple of these. And again, I apologize, not very exciting to watch. Well, you'll be able to kind of replicate what you see. Notice I'm just kind of pressing the equal sign after each one of these. And there, I just wanted to kind of show you what the calculator will display if you kind of exceed a certain amount of zeros. It'll kind of switch over to this, what I called calculator speak in a previous lecture. So that E right there actually corresponds to that times 10 right there. So just make sure if you ever use an answer like this, like on an exam, that you convert it to times 10 to something. Okay, here's another calculation we could try. Oh, and incidentally, I did figure out how to get this thing to just display in scientific notation and kind of switch between the two, but it's a little involved and it's just not worth it. If you're interested in that, talk to me in one of the office hours, and I'd be happy to help you out with that. So, this guy, pretty straightforward once again. So you enter into scientific notation, and if you want to, instead of like last time when I pressed execute to just to kind of show you what it would do on the calculator to kind of automatically convert between the two different scientific notation and normal notation, this time I'm just going to press the down arrow key so that I get out of that exponent, and I will enter the rest of the calculation. And in fact, I did end up with the correct answer. And just since if you don't care about how to convert this to scientific notation, then you can stop watching. If you'd like to see how to convert that answer into scientific notation, it just has to do with going to settings, going down to the result format tab, switching that to scientific, and going back. And then if we click execute, answer execute, it'll automatically convert to scientific notation for you if you'd like.